Om Namah Shivaya. In what we often call Hinduism, there's a branch of thought called Advaita Vedanta, which translates as classical non-dualism, or the non-dual teaching. So some of you may have heard of people like Gangaji or Muji. They're all like contemporary Advaita, where the classic Advaita has a very strenuous philosophical tradition. And in that tradition, they talk about what they call Mahavakyas in Sanskrit. Maha means great, and Vakya means sentence or utterance, the great utterances. So there's classically 4 of these utterances, or these great sentences. Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, Aham Brahma, and will I remember the 4th one? I don't know. But there's 4 of them. And they tend to correlate with different levels, if we want to go there, of realization. Tattvamasi is very, very common. I am Brahman. So with these sentences, they're used as inquiry into the nature of who am I? What is the nature of the self? This isn't what I was planning on talking about today. But we're doing these mantras that Om Namah Shivaya, just the mantra Om, they all qualify as great sentences, because in these great utterances, these great sentences, the idea is that the subject, the verb, and the object, if I got that grammar right, are all the same. So tat tvamasi, I am that. So within the Sanskrit, tat is that, which also means God. So that and God are the same word. I, aham, also means God. And asi, that, they all mean, it's basically you're saying God, God, God. So when we're saying Om, we're just saying God one time. When you say Om Namah Shivaya, you're saying Om, which means God, as qualified by the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, sort of in my reference there. Om Namah, I'm bowing to the light within you, within me, within all things. Shivaya, that all-pervasive God. Now Shiva is really interesting because Shiva can be explained in so many different ways. You think about a tradition as old as Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism, you know, the more conservative estimates put it at 5,000 years old. And that's just so it can fit in with our Western conceptions, where most people give it more like 10 to 15,000. Some people say it goes back into other time periods, which we don't acknowledge in our culture. So like really old school. So within that time period, there's going to be various translations and understandings of these mantras over time. So Shiva is considered to be one of the older names out of that tradition, and Shiva is both conceived of as a male deity, Shiva with a long A at the end as a female deity. One of my monastic Swami female friends, her name is Shiva, as in the female form of Shiva. And then also Shiva as the non-dual, Shiva as genderless, formless, the all-pervasive. So I just love this whole, the teaching of Shiva, because it has such a large variety of meanings. But getting into what I wanted to talk about a little bit more specifically here today, last time I was here, I did a talk about cancel culture. I don't know who remembers anything about that. You don't need to. But I'm tracking it in my brain. And cancel culture, the negative consequences of cancel culture. So when I cancel you, I'm actually canceling our connection, our oneness, our relationship. So that was the general idea of that talk. I wanted to, in that talk, I kept talking about listening, right? Because when we listen, we can experience that other person more directly. So often we show up in relationships or in our own mind, which is the first relationship, right? And we have a lot of projections. This person believes that. This person is that. Because this person believes this, they are this or they are that. And often these things don't hold up to much scrutiny. A little game I've been doing with myself recently is this a Like, where's my projection with this? I am superimposing things onto things. This is an assumption. Oh, I made yet another assumption. Often when we talk, we're just talking about our assumptions over and over again. We have absolutely very little evidence to support most of our beliefs, most all of the time, if you look at it deeply. Maybe you disagree, but that's my opinion on this subject. It's quite funny, actually, how much what we're standing on is so shaky. So, but yet we create all this division and all this conflict based upon this very unstable foundation. So when we can pull back and we can listen, we can have a more direct experience of people as they are. Instead of seeing the negative context of other people based upon our projections of who they are, we could show up empty and present and experience the vastness of who they actually are in that moment. So the mantra Om. So I kind of requested that I could have the meditation time today, and we're going to play around with the mantra Om. And we'll do a few minutes of meditation using it. And while we use it, I want to invite you all to explore the power of your intention. Because it doesn't really matter what practice you do. It could be a physical practice, it could be a prayer practice, it could be an intellectual practice. It's the power of intention which really fuels it, right? And especially for those of us, and I know there's a lot of us here, who have like a disciplined practice. The problem with the disciplined practice is sometimes it becomes mechanical, right? We're just going through it every day. But if we can get back inside and go deeper into that intention, we can get really deep and then use our emotion to fuel it. So when we chant this Om today, I want you guys to really, in the words of James Brown, I'm going to get into it, man. So like really go into the Om. And when we do the Om, we want to look at two parts of it, because we have the sound of Om, and then we're going to have the sound after the Om. So we'll all chant Om together, and we want to like really engage our breathing, like a big, fat, juicy Om, like your James Brown. You're really going to get into it. And then after that, I want to invite everyone to be silent. And then the way that I like to explain it to my yoga students, jump into the silence like you're jumping into a pool. So when you jump into the pool, you're in the pool, right? It's not like, oh, well, maybe I've got a thought right now, or, oh, actually, I'm not quiet. No. Just like clear that and just jump right in. My meditation teacher says we're going to jump into the deep into the pool, jumping all the way in. So we're going to submerge ourselves. So let the sound Om clear your space. Feel it hit your body. So engage the physical aspect of it. Feel your breath. Allow it to kind of like you're blowing dust off of a table. So like blowing everything out of your mind. And then sit for we'll sit a little bit. And when those thoughts do come in, because they will, just turn and look the other direction and try to melt into that silence. So we're going to play around with this as a meditation so that we can, instead of me just talking about silence and the power of silence, we're going to get to use some techniques to help deepen the silence. So with that, let's all sit in whatever way is comfortable for you. It could be very straight. It could be a little bit more relaxed and surrendered. So I want you all to, once again, invoke in James Brown to really feel that presence of the Om. And we'll do the Om, and then we'll pause and listen, and then ride into the next Om with me. So let's all inhale together. Feel your body sensations. Look for the space between your thoughts. Exhale all the way out. Big inhale. for it. Listen to the space between. Empty out. Inhale. Do another one. Inhale. And again. Watch. Surrender. Let's do one more set of 3. Inhale. Feel the silence now. If you notice any peaceful spot on your body, put your attention there. Any peaceful spot in your breath, jump into the pool of silence. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om peace, peace, peace. In the mindfulness tradition, and in a lot of yogic meditation, we learn about cultivating a quality of concentration where the meditation is continuous and unbroken. So right now we just use some techniques to push us a little bit deeper. And then how can we hold on to that in our daily life? In the last talk, I kept pointing out that when we cancel. We cancel each other. So learning to dwell in this continuous state of meditative awareness, so taking that Om, taking the active Om when we chant out loud, and then how we feel afterwards, and trying to let that permeate through our life. Then we can really start to be the change that we want to see in the world, as Gandhi says. Guru Nanak, who is the first Sikh guru, he wrote a beautiful poem called Japji Sahib. It's the beginning of the Sikh holy text, and there's a little section of it I'm going to chant for you guys in that language, Gurmukhi, and then I'll give the translation. So you can just keep in the meditative space and listen. Sunya sid pur sunath, sunya dartavalakas, sunya deepalo patal, sunya pana sakekal, nanak bhagada saravigas, Sunya dukkha papakanas, sunya esa barmayan, sunya muksalahiman, sunya jag jagatambed, sunya satsamritaved, nanaka bhagada saravigas, sunya dukkha papakanas, sunya parpaveman, sunya lag sejdian, nanaka bhagada saravigas, sunya dukkha papakanas, Sunya sara gungatkag, sunya sake parapatashao, sunya ande pavarao, sunya hat havo asagao, nanaka bhagada saraviga, sunya dukkha papakanas. So in the Sikh tradition, the words of the Sikh gurus are considered to be the guru themselves. So I gave a version of this talk when I was at my ordination for interfaith minister training about a month ago. And this one lady kept telling me that I opened her third eye when I chanted it. I was like, no, I did not open your third eye. The mantra itself is designed to open your third eye. So a little translation of the mantra. These are just a couple chunks. We could do like a whole hour exploring the whole mantra, but listening, men become gods. That would include women as well. Listening, high and low realms, oceans of light. Listening, beyond time. Listening, blind ones find the path. Listening, the unknown is known. O Nanak, God's lovers bloom forever. Listening destroys all pain and error. So in this section from Japji Sahib, at the end of every sentence, or paragraph we could say, Guru Nanak says, Nanaka Bhagada Saravigas Sunya Dukkha Papakanas, which translates as, O Nanak, these poets from this time period, they often refer to themselves. O Nanak, God's lovers, bloom forever. Listening destroys all pain and error. So when we're in the state of listening, we're not in a place of projecting, which is where we often spend a lot of our time projecting onto others, projecting onto situations. So learning to listen is really a profound method which we see over and over again in all of the different world wisdom traditions. Thich Nhat Hanh states, deep listening is the kind of listening that can help relieve the suffering of another person. So deep listening is the kind of listening that can help relieve the suffering of another person. So he's defining true deep listening, that it has a transformational value, where it transforms others' suffering. He continues, you can call it compassionate listening. You listen with only one purpose, to help him or her to empty their heart. So this is a deep and profound quality of listening. I'm sure that you've all experienced, and I certainly have, you get into a little tuffle with somebody or a little disagreement, and then you're like, oh, wait, I'm going to step back. And when we start to listen, we see that, oh, wow, I completely was making up something that was not true, and I've learned so much more about the person. So it's easy for me to sit up here and, toot my horn about cancel culture and the damage of cancel culture. It's even easy for me to sit up here and toot my horn about how we should all listen to each other. So that's why I wanted to do the chanting, because the chanting can, if we put the right intention into it, really drive us into a state where we're able to be more present and listening more. The Dalai Lama says, when you talk, you're only repeating what you already know. But if you listen, you may learn something new. Jesus says in the book of Matthew, do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged, and with the measure you use it, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eyes. I'm sure you've all heard that teaching before, but then the question is can we live that teaching? Can we apply that teaching to our life? It's a little challenging because of the nature of the projective mind. So daily spiritual practice, self-inquiry, prayer, all of these things can help us. And as we can see here, we've touched on the Sikh tradition, 2 Buddhist teachers. We got down with some Jesus. Can I get an amen? And they're all saying the same thing, Stop with the projections and listen. So if we want to listen, we have to restrain our own thoughts at points, which sometimes can be a little strange, especially when we praise expansion so much, like actually constraining our thoughts, pulling them back, being like, okay, just stop for a second, guys, okay, calm down. We can clear our mind, like I was talking about using the Om, kind of like you're blowing dust away, use something that can help us clear our mind. To listen, we have to really be present. We can't be rushing into the future or living in the past. So in today's world, there's a lot of ideas that probably all of us subscribe to some sort of ideology that makes it harder for us to be present with people. It could be a religious idea, political, all of those, loaded things that can make us so that we can't show up with other humans. So we need to really scrutinize and look at the cause and effect of our minds so that we can weed out those ideas that we're being fed that make us so that we are in conflict with ourselves and with others. And then using these techniques can help us go deeper. So one last thought here. I keep talking about using these meditations and using these various things. It's tricky because this is a prescription, right? Well, if you chant Om, you'll just be fine. No, it's not really true, right? It's more than that. We have to get in alignment, and there has to be something a little bit deeper. And what that thing is, I can't really say. That's the magic. Now, we do know that, prayer, dance, meditation, mantra chanting, physical yoga practice, all of these different spiritual techniques, they all help. But at the same time, there has to be a deeper willingness, a deeper alignment, and a deeper surrender. The Yoga Sutras state that to experience samadhi, or spiritual ecstasy, the quickest method is surrender. By devotional surrender to God, samadhi can be quickly attained, is the translation. So with all of these practices that we do and the way that we live our life, if we can remember that Ishvara Pranidhanava, as they call it in Sanskrit, the devotional surrendering, letting go of our ego, letting go of our ideas, of our mind, then we can show up and let the miraculous moment flow through us. So with that, let's chant one more big Om together, and then we'll offer a little closing prayer. Om Shanti Shanti, Om Peace Peace. O great Spirit that lives in all things, bless us to listen with the understanding hearts, to heal the division in the world, and to shine our love light on all people and circumstances equally. Om Tat Sat, Om Peace Peace Peace. Thank you all for listening to me today. Namaste.